guys, thanks so much for clicking on the video. My name is Leah, and let's talk about the Real Housewives of Atlanta. This is season 14, episode 18, part 1 of the reunion. It was meh. It was mid. It was a mid reunion. Low key, low tier, mid to low tier reunion. But let's get into it. All right, you guys. So y'all know sometimes we do this segment. I'm calling it the spicy corner. We're calling it the spicy corner. It's the spicy corner, the spicy corner. That's what we're calling it. It's simple and it gets straight to the point. And I liked it. So both things I have to talk about is about Kandi. First, we're going to talk about what happened at Blaze, and then we're going to talk about this clip that's been going around about Kandi talking about Carlos King. So like I said, first we're going to talk about what happened at Blaze. So about a week ago, unfortunately, Kandi's godbrother slash cousin, godson, slash cousin, got shot in the arm at work. So if you watch OLG, or isn't it OLG gang? Oh, Kandi and the Gang. It's called Kandi and the Gang on Bravo. We met Melvin. Melvin is a cook, and he's also Kandi's cousin slash godson. Well, he was working at Blaze, got into a confrontation with another coworker. The coworker pulled out, the weapon and shot him in the arm. Unfortunately. Gladly, he didn't sustain any life-threatening injuries, and it made like a clean hole, so he probably will be able to heal itself faster. But that is scary. Like, first of all, why you bringing a weapon to work? Like, is your life that much in chaos that you got to keep the strap on you at all times? And then second, nothing in an argument at work is that serious that you want to give up your freedom or take somebody's life. So I'm happy he's okay, as well as it's something going on with Kandi's establishments. It's either people complain about the food, because I've never been, or they're complaining about the service, because we all saw it on Kandi and the Gang. Now people getting shot up, because I remember a few years back when OLG first opened that I did see on the news that a few people did get shot. I think it was 2 or 3 people did get shot. So I'm just like, ugh, girl, maybe you need to move to another area, But I'm happy that Melvin is okay, and nobody else was harmed. I just think it sucks that happened. I totally think it sucks. But it also piques my interest to feel like I think Kandi is doing all this press so this story will die down, because out the blue, she just started doing interviews with people, not shading into the people that did interviews, because Scotty by Nature and Jamar84, they have a show called The Prelude, which they interview various people. I love when they interview the cast of Chasing Atlanta, because they always be getting the tea. But they interviewed her, so check out their channel. I'll drop below his name so you can type it in and look at it, pause it and type it in. And then the Ooh Ladies First panel with Bondi Blue, Niecy Dixon, and Jamie That's Me. They also got an interview with her, and I'll put their name. I think it was showcased on Bondi Blue's channel. And then House of Aaron is the clip that's been going viral. He's also a YouTuber, and he asked this question where he was like, what's the issue with you and Carlos King? So I'm gonna play the clip for you, but definitely go check out all of those people's channels and listen to their reviews or their interviews with Kandi. So we're gonna play it, then I'm gonna give y'all my thoughts.
People think that you and Carlos King have a beef, including me, because then you went on to speak on it, and somebody asked you about Carlos, and you were like, "We're not cool."
He is the one who stole my group's life story and sold it to TV1. And for that, I just can't get past it. I was talking to a friend. I was like, we should do a movie about, our group's life or whatever. It was a director that Todd and I were speaking, and they was like, somebody's already doing it. And I was like, what you mean somebody's doing it? And so in my mind, I'm thinking it was one of my group members or something. And they was like, yeah, it's a network that's already because I took a meeting about directing it. And I was like, what? Oh, and sidebar, his other producing partner, one of the producers that worked for him, had called my mom, was like, oh yeah, we want to do interview you because we're trying to do a documentary about girl groups or something. So we want to ask you questions about, Escape. My mom was going to do it or whatever, but come to find out, he was the person who had did the deal with TV1 to sell our life story. And it was going to try to ask my mother questions about us unknowingly to get more information, I guess, for the show. So anyway, I just thought that was the lowest thing that anybody could ever do. When you're a public figure, they can do unauthorized stories about you. Never once, all them years we have been around each other, he had never once told me that he was trying to do a movie about us. And to be
So, what do y'all think? I don't think she's lying. I really don't think she's lying. I've never... What's the thing? Because I've seen a lot of people was like, oh, I always thought Carlos King was a snake and underhanded. Never thought that. Never thought that. But it's the game. It's the game. As much as, like, we always see these biopics of entertainers and like artists and things of that nature. And it's always somebody trying to do some underhanded stuff to them or try to take advantage of a situation. And it seems like that's what happened. I think he saw that he could make a quick buck off of it. And it does make sense because around that time, I think Hollywood Divas or R&B Divas was out. And I think a lot of people were saying that Todd and Carlos King were the ones that were promoting this show, or like they're the ones that created this show. So when Candy said that, I was like, oh, this gives credibility to what she's talking about. My thing is, for shows to be as drama filled and as good as Carlos King makes them, lets me know that there has to be some slight toxicity in like snakish ways in a sense, because the shows that he creates or the seasons that he has created or been a part of or helped produce are always good, but they're full of mess. So I would not think he wouldn't do this. But it is disappointing and disheartening. So I understand Candy's frustrations when she's like, I advocated for him to be a part of my first spinoff from Real Housewives of Atlanta, because I think it was the one where she was marrying Todd. And then this is what I find out, and this is what you do. I think what really pissed her off is probably them trying to put her mom into this situation and trying to get information out her mom in a what's the word I'm looking for? In a deceitful way. Because that's basically deceitful. Like, you're calling her, asking to interview her just so you can siphon information about your daughter and the women that were in the girl group with her to add to something that you don't want her to be a part of. But I do want to know what he has to say. I want to know what Carlos is going to say on his podcast. I think it's Reality with the King, or The King's Reality. I want to know what he has to say. I want to know if he's going to add to this and be like, or like dispute the claims and be like, no, this is not what happened. I wasn't a part of this, and this, but y'all did this, and this. Either way, I'm interested. And this going on was way more... It was way better than the review. It really was. But let's get into the review. All right, y'all. So a few things before we get into the review. I don't get why they had real birds. I thought the stage was lovely, but they could have done away with the real birds. I don't like seeing birds in cages. I just feel like birds should be able to fly free. That's what makes a bird a bird. But I was just like, why y'all got real birds? And as someone who worked with birds are annoying. So I know they were squawking the whole time because they'll just chirp for no reason. And it just be like, okay. So I was just like, why y'all had real birds? I thought the water element of the stage was cool, but I also peeped that like that probably makes the people ladies not walk away so much because they had to walk over a bridge to get to the stage. So it's basically like, girl, you are landlocked. Either you gonna get up and get out, or you're just gonna have to sit here and take it. The dresses, I thought everybody's dress looked way better on camera. Even Drew's makeup, which I had an issue with, looked better on camera. I don't know what cheap ass cameras they had to take pictures of them ladies, but whoever took them pictures did them a disservice because everyone's dress looked a lot better on the camera. And I was just confused because I think the one that confused me the most was Candy's dress, because in the pictures, Candy's dress just looked awkward to me with the color scheme, but when I saw her sitting on the couch with all the ladies, it meshed very well and it looked like it was the same color. So I was just confused. I was like, what, like how you know, maybe the camera they had was cheap, but yeah, I thought everyone looked decent. Sheree is a constant joke because why did Andy come into her room before, like when everyone was getting ready? She had fashions, girl. I would be sick of everybody. I've already like Pete Marlowe was going to be apologizing a lot or trying to be more sympathetic or humble herself a little bit more as the reunion goes on, and she kind of did that. So it confirmed that when she was like, I'm coming to, to listen and probably to say sorry to a few people. So I was like, I bet. So they start the reunion, and the first thing they ask about is like, who was the new bone collector? Honestly, to me, everybody was bone collecting. I would say, to me, Candy kind of did the most, because it was like, it seemed like Candy, we saw more of Candy talking to everybody about everything. But honestly, everybody was bone collecting this season. They then talk about the whole situation with Drew and Sheree, which Andy didn't even ask about that, but Drew and Sheree started to go back and forth and had like slick stuff to say under their breath to each other, to the point where Drew didn't even hear the question that Andy was asking her, because they were both throwing shots. I'm sick of Drew calling Fatum a chihuahua, because Drew had an issue with being called a stray last season. So don't get mad when people start referring to you as animals, because you constantly calling that lady a chihuahua is disrespectful. As well as, in this moment, to me, Sheree was right. You just couldn't handle her. You couldn't handle her. And like Drew was like, well, she was like, no, I did handle her. I got her right. Like, I got her right on out. And if you don't know, I talked about this in one of my videos where it was alleged that Fatum was supposed to be filming a lot more with the ladies, but when they had that argument in Blue Ridge and Drew threw the dog treats on the floor, at Fatum, I think Drew had walked away and her purse was out, and Fatum allegedly went through her bag, and they were saying, and they were alleging that Drew went to the higher ups of the network or of the of production and said she didn't feel comfortable filming with Fatum, so that is why we didn't see Fatum anymore. And so I feel like Drew confirmed that by saying, like, I got her on out of here. Like, I did what needed to be done, blah, blah, blah. And when Sheree was like, no, you just couldn't handle her, I feel like they were talking about that situation. And I'm on Sheree's side. You couldn't handle her, because if you could, you wouldn't have gotten rid of her so easily. Like, you wouldn't have been like, I'm afraid for my life type stuff. Or like, you don't feel comfortable with the lady being there and got her kicked off. If you could handle it, you would have kept her on the show. And every time you saw her, you would have just kept eating her up left and right. And I think Drew just couldn't handle it. They then started talking about being a runner versus basically Sheree and Drew kept going back. I'm sorry, y'all, I got my handwriting when I'm writing these notes on this show. Sheree basically they were talking about, like, was Anthony her assistant or not? Let's talk to Anthony. And Sheree was about to call Anthony, and Andy was like, let's not. And so they moved on. So then they talked about the whole Lisa Ray loaning or allowing Kenya to use her Range Rover, which Lisa Ray even debunked that, because I think Kenya went on that Fox Soul show and got asked that, and Lisa Ray got asked that question, and Lisa Ray was like, no, but she can use it if she ever needs it. So it made Marla look stupid, because Marla was like, well, that's what I heard. And I was like, you don't repeat everything you hear, lady. Like, shut up. So we then get to the situation between Sonya and Drew. And Drew was like, oh, she's a great runner. That's about it. Because I think Andy was asking her how she was feeling. And then that's when Sonya hit Drew with, like, me and you have been on this earth the same amount of time, and all you've ever been able to accomplish is mediocrity. I said, damn, girl. I was like, oh. Shots fired. So then Drew is like, what you're not gonna do is take this moment away from me. And I was like, that's one of the reasons why I don't see it for Drew. She starts things with people, but when they shoot back and she can't handle it, all of a sudden it's woe is me. Ma'am, you just tried to diminish the fact that she's a 5-time Olympic winner, 4-time gold medal winner of the Olympics, and you try to be like, oh, she's just a great runner. That takes a lot of skill and dedication. When we see Simone winning weapons, or Gabby, because I only really be watching, what's it called? Gymnastics. When we see the two of those black girls winning, we all go up. We all get happy. We call we call Simone the GOAT. So I'm just kind of like, What are you talking about? Like, you're trying to diminish something that to a lot of people is an extraordinary accomplishment, and you just got mad that she shot back. Because I know people are like, well, she's sitting on the same couch as Drew. She is sitting on the same couch as Drew. But that doesn't negate the fact that she, like, in her, by her standards, she's way more accomplished than Drew. And that's not to say that Drew isn't accomplished either. She was on The Game, she was on Step It Up, and she's been in several other movies, even the TLC biopic. But you can't try to diminish someone else to prop yourself up, and then when they hit you back in your chest, all of a sudden, you're not going to take this moment away from me. Yeah, I can and I will. Don't play with me. That's what happened. You got played. So they moved on from that. They didn't do Sheree's segment. They talk about she finished. And she talks about how the site is going to be launched at the end of the season finale. Girl, I'm glad this was before this, because if this was after, the internet would have continuously kept dragging. She tried to say I do things at my own time. No, you procrastinated on something that you never really wanted to do, and you only committed to it because everybody else wanted you to do it. You should have just had the balls enough to say, like, y'all, yes, I just don't know what I want to do with She by Sheree. I know it's a worldwide name, but I don't know what I want to do with it. I said I wanted to do joggers, but I'm not passionate about that. I just need to find what I'm passionate about. Honestly, if Sheree was smart, she probably would have did a fitness program, because that's all everyone talks about is how fit her body is. She could have done what Drew has done, been the spokesperson or the face of an already produced fitness plan or fitness regime, and then made money that way. But she didn't. She talking about she a fashion girl. Girl, bye. Go home, ma'am. Gone. They then talk about Candy Speak on it, and they also talk about how Candy be shading the girls on Speak on it, which she does. And I thought it was weird that Sheree tried to like negate the fact that she was just as shady on the show in her confessionals as Candy. They both be shading each other. Like, we just gonna call a thing. Candy has been questioning where Sheree get her money, as well as been saying, like, we ain't seen nothing of She by Sheree, and like, we don't know where it is. We don't see the joggers. When is it coming? So they both do that. Sheree says she's good clickbait. I mean, technically it's not clickbait because she does talk about you and things of that nature. So then Candy and Sheree go back and forth, and I just was like, okay, okay. So then they get on like Sheree's feeling about Drop It with Drew, and Sheree basically was just like, it's not, I don't like, she's lying about it, which she is. And I'm sick of Drew trying to be like, I had a hysterectomy. A hysterectomy, okay, you had one, but you also said when you had that hysterectomy that they did a mommy makeover. So inadvertently, you're telling us that you did not do the work to get your body the way it is. So it doesn't make sense to be the face of a fitness program if you, in fact, did not do the fitness to get there. There's nothing wrong with getting work done to your body. I don't have a problem when women be like, girl, I'm going to get me a BBL. I'm going to get these titties lifted. I'm, plastic surgery on my face. Just don't overdo it and start looking like a cat lady. I don't mind when people do those things to their bodies. But what I do have an issue with, where it's a lot of women out here and men, because we know y'all be getting fake abs and stuff, who like to be like, oh, I did this by doing this. I work out in the gym this long and this and that and that and that and this. But all the while, you got there with the cheat code. Like, I understand after you get your body done, you do have to continuously work out and maintain it and things of that nature. But let's call a thing a thing. Like, you did not do that naturally. So why would they have you be a face of a fitness program? And then think about Drew. Drew likes to always be like, I need people to support me, because she did that last season with Kenya. Like, when she was like, I just don't understand why Kenya would do this. Because, Drew, you do shit to people, and then when they hit you back in your chest, all of a sudden I need support. Nobody wants to support somebody that's going to be throwing shots at them. Like, that's just what it is. And in this moment, talking about I need more support, why would I support something that I feel like is fraudulent? I'm not about to mess up my reputation for you. Who is Drew? Like, girl, go on, girl, go on. So we're still on the Sheree segment, and we start talking about like Sheree not paying her bills. And honestly, Sheree told on herself, Sheree is a scammer. Sheree don't pay people. I wouldn't want to do business with Sheree. Because Sheree was basically, like, they asked her, like, why did it take so long for Chateau Sheree? Why did it take so long for She by Sheree? And she was like, greatness takes time. Girl, greatness of what? You made us wait 14, well, not made us, because I was never waiting on her. But you waited 14 years just to give us overpriced joggers and legging sets and shirts that I could get from Five Below for $5. If we include in tax, $5.84 for $5 or something like that, for $142. Wrinkled emoji shirts, or a wrinkled shirt with your face printed on it with the whole who gonna check me boo stuff. It's like you wasted everybody's time, and that's why everyone has no problem making you the butt of the joke or clowning you. And it's like you don't care, because Sheree, like, it's just like it don't click up in there. It don't click. And like I said, Sheree told on herself about saying, like, she don't be paying people, because they were like, so you don't pay people? She was like, no, I pay people that need to be paid. And then when she made the correlation between Marlo saying that, well, Marlo said she wasn't going to pay somebody, Marlo quickly was like, oh, that was a joke. I pay people. Then Kenya had to hop in, and Kenya was like, just because you don't like the service doesn't mean you don't pay people, unless it's like contractual. Like, y'all signed off on saying that if you were not satisfied with the service, you would not pay them. So I'm looking at Sheree like, basically what it sounds like Sheree does is she'll get things but then complain about the service and try to get it comped, basically. And I was like, Sheree, you too big for that. You too big and you too grown for that. Like, living your means. And I think that's the issue with Sheree, and that's the issue that a lot of people, that's why people don't take Sheree seriously. Yes, Sheree looks nice in clothes. Yes, she's a beautiful lady. But we all have known for a while, since Real Housewives of Atlanta has been on, I want to say like since season 3, that, what was it, season 3? Maybe I feel like around season 3, we all started to see like Sheree ain't got it the way she say she got it. She's not really that girl she thinks she is, or that the people thought she was. And she just proves it every time she get on this stage. She does it. Someone then asks, like, why does Kandi bring off TV information to the show? And she does that a lot. Kandi does that a lot. And then the person lists out the whole Apollo situation with Phaedra, the thing with Portia and the tattoos, now this thing with Marlo and stuff like that. Kandi does that, but people don't care because they like Kandi. They think Kandi like is like the neutral, like they're like, it's Kandi. Like, people let Kandi get away with stuff because Kandi does that a lot. So Kandi tried to be like, whoa, whoa, whoa. And I'm like, Kandi, you can say whoa, whoa, whoa all you want, but you do that. You were the one that brought up the whole tattoo situation and about your friends knowing Dennis. The same with Phaedra and her dating some other man. Even with the whole Marlo thing and her sister living in a 2-bedroom apartment, you do that. And Kandi's whole thing is like, well, if you be arguing, I can do whatever. And that is true, but then own it. You know, like, don't be like, oh, I don't, like, she was trying to backpedal, but then it's like, no, you own it. You do that. Just stand in it, man. So then Marlo talks about the whole WeTV deal. And I hope this is the last time we hearing about it. And I actually agree with Marlo. If the contract didn't vibe well in my favor, why would I sign it? And I also think the thing about Kandi is, if you really did something for her out the kindness of your heart, or if you're really trying to help her like you do say, then stop trying to throw it in her face every time y'all get into an argument, because then it means that you really didn't do that because you wanted to help her or because you cared. That's just what it means. It really means you didn't really want to help her. Like, you only did that so you can say, oh, I helped her do this. And I mean, Marlo made a point. If the contract wasn't in her favor, then why would she sign it? Even if y'all were trying to give her an opportunity. You're not like they say, not all opportunities are meant for you. And if you feel like Marlo was a waste of your time, then treat her as such. So Kandi starts angry, yelling in shaky voice, yelling like she about to cry. Because she's like, I'm tired of you people saying I don't help people when I do. And that's understandable too. But the way you're going about this, I think is wrong because, ma'am, if you did that because you wanted to help her, then kudos. Let it go. If she didn't take the offer in kindness or take the offer to be a part of the show in stride, then that was just a waste of your time, and you cut your losses and keep it pushing. You got enough money not to worry about Marlo. So then Sheree interjects and was like, isn't this supposed to be my segment? So that broke up all the yelling. They then talk about Tyrone and Martell. Sheree looks stupid trying to say she didn't know what Martell did, but then he's on TV, so clearly you know what that man did. And like Kenya said, he cheated on his wife with multiple women, got his side chick pregnant, and here we are while he's divorced. She's like, well, he's different. Sheree takes L's all the time. She takes L's all the time. Like, we're like talking about, oh, we all ignore red flags. Not this one that's so apparent. Like, you've seen him act a plum fool on the internet as well as on TV, and yet you still want to associate yourself with him. At this point, you get what you get it, because it's clear as day in your face. It's not like someone's lying to you or like he was being deceitful. You have clear representation and evidence of him doing this. So at this point, it's on you, bruh. It's on you. It's on you. We then get to Sonya versus Drew. So let's get into that. So like I said, it's the Sonya versus Drew segment. So Andy asked Sonya how she's feeling about being a part of the show. He asked her how she has dealt with the ladies. We found out her and Drew don't really talk. Drew chimes in and says, like, we were building a friendship, so I don't know what really happened. And I introduced you to people at my mom's 70th birthday party. And we found out she just introduced her to Shamia. I said, girl, someone that's not relevant. Drew keeps, and the thing about Drew I don't like is Drew be trying to act like Sonya is mad aggressive, always being like, I don't know why you're giving me all this extra energy, I don't know why you're so angry, and that would get on my nerves. That would totally get on my nerves, and I would want to pop you dead in your face because you're doing things, you're trying it. So Sonya says she feels like Drew is trying to milk the situation. She talks about how that whole situation where she was talking to Kenya when they were in New York, and how she was like, oh, I'm going to talk to Drew privately before she got down in front of the ladies. What Sonya is saying is that she did speak to Drew off camera with Ralph, one of the makeup assistants, and tell Drew how she really felt. And mainly she was like, before Drew got around the ladies, she said that she doesn't know what it is about the ladies, where she was like, they all think I'm aggressive and I'm all rah-rah and all of this, but I'm really not. And Sonya was like, but you are. Like, I'm seeing you with these women and I see you being that way. So you are that way. And she was just like, I just didn't like what I was seeing, especially when it pertains to her and Sheree. And I know a lot of people look at Sonya funny because it's like, you don't like the way Drew is treating Sonya, but you're okay with being friends with Marlo. And Marlo has really been coming at Kenya's throat. So it's like, stop using that, Sonya. Stop using that. So we find out that Sonya felt blindsided when she sat down with the ladies when they were in New York, because Drew did act like she didn't know what was going on. And Sonya was like, we had a full-on conversation in front of everybody. And then I told you I was going to talk to the ladies and all of us together so we could find a resolution. And you're trying to milk the situation like I just came out of nowhere at you. So then they talk about the whole Mommy Nation situation, where they felt like Sonya was clout chasing off of Kenya and Candy. And Sonya was like, how was I clout chasing when at first I asked Drew to be there and she only has 500K subscribers and they have like 1 million. I think they said Candy has 10 million. She was like, I also didn't ask them to post anything either. I just wanted to get to know them. Now I call BS on this, Sonya, because you might not have asked them to post, but those pictures that you took are definitely going to be showcased on your website, and that's going to make people interested and want to buy your stuff because they see Candy and Kenya. So, girl, no. So Sonya begins to cry, and cause you could tell it wasn't like sad cry. She was just frustrated because she was like, I don't want to talk about this anymore, because Drew was basically kept cutting her off. And so it did seem like she was trying to, like, she was gaslighting her because Drew was trying to act like she ain't know what was going on. But I believe I believe Sonya. I do believe that they probably had a conversation beforehand. And because Drew does that, Drew gives me very much like, I'm gonna play this game. I told y'all Drew is an actor. Drew and Ralph are actors. Like, they even showed, like, I found a clip. Not I found a clip. One of my Twitter mutuals sent me a clip of Ralph being on a marriage boot camp with I think it was with the few people from like Bridezilla and stuff. And like, he was on there. So Ralph is an actor too. So I'm just kind of like, Andy asks Drew, she's just like, she's crying, so she seems like she's hurt. And Drew was like, is she really crying? And then there's tears, but okay. And Kenya was like, Drew, that's the definition of crying. And Andy's like, she's not a trained actress. And Drew was like, we don't know that. I'm like, Drew, you're the only one on here that's acting. You're the only one that's on here that's acting. Because I genuinely don't think this is Drew. I think the way Drew was acting on her first season with Portia and them, that is really Drew. Drew wants to be clicked up with them. Drew wanted to be clicked up with Portia, Shamia, what's it called? Was it Tanya? Tanya and all of them. I really don't think the Drew that we're getting here is really Drew. But I digress. So they talk about Drew being a known liar, but they didn't have no context. And then we get on to Miss Marlo. So this was sad. I'm not even gonna lie, this was sad. Marlo talks about, running away at 10 years old because her mama beat her so bad that she just couldn't take it anymore. She feels like she's not wanted or worthy. They asked her about like what it felt like getting her peach. She was talking about how like, I didn't understand why nobody wanted to give me one. She also talks about she had been in 5 foster homes and she ended up aging out. She also expressed how, I guess her first foster home, the first home she went to was like this nice nice Jamaican family that she went to, but then the father turned out to be abusive. So she called CPS to come and get her. They then moved her to this other lady, and she was just like, the lady was so strict, and I was just always telling people like, oh, she's just so strict, I just can't take it. And I guess the lady cared a lot about her image, so she kicked Marlo out. And then Marlo actually went to this last home where she really thought like that was like her forever home. The lady was a teacher. She had a daughter. She just felt like she finally found her place where she belonged. But she ended up having to get kicked out because the foster mom basically said that her daughter felt some type of way about Marlo being there, that like Marlo was taking up too much attention. So after that, Marlo was just like, she was just mad at the world. She was just angry, and she was just like, it hurts me when people don't allow me in circles, or when they oftentimes refer to my past as being like an ex-con. And she was just like, I feel like I've made it because I'm sitting on the couch with like a Grammy Award winning artist, Kenya, who's a pageant queen, Sheree's the original OG, Sonya, like I've made it in some regard. She then, before we got into this part, she talked about how like, it was nice to see her mom, but her mom still doesn't get it. Like, they had a moment where they were okay, but then they reverted back to where they were because her mom just doesn't get it. And she was like, I know my mom didn't have the best childhood growing up, so I don't fault her too much because my grandmother didn't know how to be a mother. So we could tell it's like a generational curse. And then they just speak on it, they really speak on it. You could tell that everybody was affected by her story, especially Candy and Kenya. As much as they want to act like they were unfazed by Marlo, I think it did because the thing is like, we've all heard Marlo's story, but I don't think with these details, Marlo talks about being homeless and all this stuff. And I know a lot of people are like, oh, she rehearsed this. So fucking what, yo? Like, the lady been through a lot. And I get we don't like Marlo. I get everybody's angry with her. And her behavior the way her past does not justify her behavior. But we're not going to act like everybody that comes on reality TV doesn't share their story or exploit their own story. That's the part that be killing me when people are like, oh, she's just using it. She's exploiting. Everybody on reality TV is exploiting themselves in some capacity. There's just some people who go the extra mile than others. So I'm just kind of like, that's not a good reason for y'all to be like, this story. I get it. Marlo has done a lot this whole entire season where it has turned people off. And like I said in my Real Housewives of Dubai review, your story is Marlo's story is valid. Her feelings are valid, but she is at an age and she has the means where she can seriously get help to where you can't constantly use that as a reason why you do the things that you do anymore. Like, you should be actively in therapy. Like, you could tell Kenya wanted to feel for her, but like Kenya says, Marlo always takes it all the way down to the ground with you when you're fighting. She doesn't know how to keep it like surface level shade. And like Kenya said, I share with you about things and then you use them to throw it back at me. So of course I'm not gonna really feel for you, but I could tell that Kenya did feel for her. I mean, my thing is, like, as much as Kenya gets that rap of being like the villain of Atlanta, I saw in them eyes when Marlo was saying about her being abused, saying y'all could never walk a mile in my shoes, because none of the other ladies I think have been through that. Like, none of them, like, even though Kenya and Marlo kind of have the same story, it seems like Kenya was still like, what's the word? Taken care of by her family. Like, she wasn't bussed around like place to place. We did hear that one story where she talked about going to live with her mom and then, like, you know, rolling out the car because she wanted, but her mom didn't want her anymore. So it's not as severe as what Marlo has went through, but it also begs the question of, like, why does Marlo always go there with Kenya when it's like your two stories somewhat mirror each other, so there should be compassion for one another. And that's just what it is. Marlo has to understand that you can't always go there with people. And even if you do go there with people, the relationships you have with those people more than likely will never be the same, because people will lose trust and faith in you. And that's where most of the ladies are at. Well, I won't say most of the ladies. That's where Kenya and Candy are at with Marlo at this point. They lost faith in her. And they lost their trust in her. And I don't know if it's ever going to get back to the same. It might, because to me, both Kenya and Candy forgiving Portia has always been weird to me, especially on Candy's part, because that lady accused you of some foul stuff. And then with Kenya, she drug you across the floor. So if y'all can forgive her from being physical to y'all or hurting you in that way, I feel like they can forgive Marlo. But I think the thing about Marlo is they need to see actual change in Marlo for them to, like, care enough about Marlo. But yeah, I think based off of this first part of the reunion, I think Marlo's going to be back. The only person I'm looking at that I don't know will come back will be Sheree. I feel like if Sheree comes back, she would be demoted in some capacity, because it's like, what else are we going to talk to with Sheree? Like, what else is there to talk to with Sheree? Like, we have Drew in the whole Ralph situation and things of that nature. And people have really been going up for her since she linked up with Candy and Kenya. So she'll probably come back. Sonya probably gonna get a second season because she's an Olympian, as well as her family dynamics are interesting. Candy is probably definitely coming back. Kenya is probably definitely coming back. Because they probably want to catch Kenya like dating and things of that nature once her divorce is finalized. And then with Candy, they're probably going to be talking about what happened at Blaze and how she's working that out in conjunction with the Candy and the Gang show. And Marlo, we're going to see Marlo be a Muntie and maybe possibly going to therapy. Sheree's the only one that really doesn't have a story, because don't nobody want to see Martell on this show. And I don't even watch Love and Marriage Huntsville, but I don't want to see that man on this show. As well as don't nobody care about She by Sheree, because it's a scam. It's a scam. So I feel like Sheree is probably gonna get demoted. But we'll see going forward how good the part 2 is. Like I said, this one was kind of mid to low tier for me, but still slightly enjoyable. So that is it. That is all, y'all. Remember to be bravely authentic and hop down in them comments below. Deuces.